Hi, welcome to Babes in Business, a very special Valentine's Day edition. I am your host, Michelle Dempsey, and I'm here spreading the love all day, and also so full of gratitude for our guest that was on last week, Miss Heather Duncan. She's the brains behind this past weekend's Eco Baby Expo. She was kind enough to have me get involved as a sponsor, a speaker, an exhibitor. It was a phenomenal event with a beautiful turnout, and we were so excited to have you on, Heather, and we're so happy about how everything turned out for you. So we're sending you some love today. Also sending major love before I do anything else this evening to my one and only, you know who you are, and to my baby Bella. Thank you so much for being the loves of my life and the Valentines of my life every single day. But tonight we are sharing love with somebody else. We're sharing love with a phenomenal doctor of psychology. Psychotherapist Dr. Nicole Goldfinger is here with us tonight. Nicole, we're so happy to have you.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we know that it's been quite some time that I've been trying to get you on the show, but you are one busy lady. Happy Valentine's Day to you, by the way, because it's really asking a lot to have somebody take time off from whatever they want to do to celebrate love.
I would do anything for you. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so excited. And
that is the perfect answer. You are the perfect radio guest already. Thank you. You know, it's funny, when you stepped out of your car, I stepped out of mine at the same time, and you said to me, "Why do you do so much? Are you taking care of yourself?" And that was such a psychologist thing to say.
Because I feel like sometimes when we're going through it, we don't realize how much we're doing and how much energy we're expending and how much of a toll that takes on us.
Story of my life. We'll get back to that, though. You have brought up a good point in pre-show earlier. Let's talk about you. We're only going to talk about you, okay? You're radiant. You're phenomenal, and we're talking about you. You are with South Miami Psychology Group.
I am.
You are, and you are also with...
I also have an office in Fort Lauderdale, and I also do co-parenting classes.
Okay.
So I'm kind of all over the place. I also spread myself
like
through
me.
that. I know, but not
Takes
really.
one to know one. No, but you split your time between Coral Gables with South Miami Psychology Group, and you're in private practice in Fort Lauderdale.
And co-parenting classes in Fort Lauderdale.
And co-parenting classes in Fort Lauderdale.
Right. So I'm geared more towards relationship issues, divorce, co-parenting in Fort Lauderdale, and kind of a little bit of everything down south in Coral Gables.
So really, you're helping people through their biggest transitional times in their lives, because you just mentioned co-parenting, having a baby,
right,
divorcing,
right,
no longer co-parenting,
and just difficult life transitions, life after loss, losing someone, losing a job, just things that you feel like are really overwhelming and you can't really get through on your own.
You know, it's so important that you bring up the word overwhelming. Life for everybody, you know, more and more just seems stressful. Everyone's anxious. Everyone's on some sort of anxiety medication. Everyone needs to meditate. Everyone needs to take time out of the day to breathe. Mm-hmm. Have you seen, you know, since you've been in practice since 2015, right? Mm-hmm. Are things like on a steady incline for you?
For sure. And also, I think that I've been seeing more and more kids and teenagers come in with anxiety and come in with depression as opposed to just adults.
Anxiety is something I take very seriously, and I can't even imagine having felt the feelings of anxiety that I sometimes feel now as a child. What do you think is causing this?
I think it's a lot of different things, but I think for one, it's social media. You know, kids today, teenagers, are exposed to so much more than when we were little. You know, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have Snapchat.
Really good point.
And now it's starting even younger. You know, I remember I got my cell phone when I started to drive, not when I was 8 years old.
Right.
And that was a big deal.
Yeah, we couldn't even text back then.
No.
It was literally...
And we had no social media.
200 minutes a month.
Thanks, at Mom. Night and on the weekends.
On my red Nokia phone. Yeah.
Right?
Did you have the red Nokia?
Yeah, of course.
That was the coolest
phone.
Right.
I couldn't get the other, like the flip phone, because that was just too cool.
Right. But that's a really good point. Social media, even for us adults, like there'll be times where I'm in on the weekend not doing anything, and I see like people out, and it's like, oh, FOMO. So from a less mature perspective, somebody in school who wasn't invited to the party, I can only imagine.
And also just the connectedness that people feel. Like so many people don't know how to have real conversations in person. They rely on text messaging. And teenagers are on these group chats where they're completely bombarded with 20, 30, 40 text messages when they wake up in the morning.
The sound of that makes me anxious. Like I'm glued to my phone all day, guilty.
Sure, of
And
course.
whenever I check after a meeting or a project I'm working on and I see the onslaught, it's like
Exhausting.
exhaust. I'm
Back
tired,
to that word, exhausting.
exhausting. Well, you're still radiant.
Thanks.
Okay, but so
Yes.
you're helping children.
I'm helping children, teens, more and more. I used to just work with adults, and then now there's such a need for especially teenagers. I think that's such a hard age without social media
Yeah.
to navigate through.
I don't-
Boys and girls,
I
by
wouldn't
the
go
way.
back to it.
I know.
Yes, I know.
So I kind of do it all. I see, kids as young as like 6 or 7, and then, adults throughout their life.
Okay, so one thing I really wanted to talk about because I think it's very fitting. Today's a day of love, but not everybody wants to celebrate because they are not coupled up. They may be going through a breakup. They may just be single and having a hard time finding the right person for them, or they may be going through a divorce. And I can only imagine, life is hard enough, but when you're going through something as serious as divorce and then Valentine's Day comes along, it could probably sting a little bit, right?
For sure.
I mean, I think back to all my single Valentine's days when it kind of just sucked to sit at home and,
And to be honest, I'm single, and I think sometimes you have to realize like it's okay to be single, and
Right.
it's okay to kind of take care of yourself and put yourself first. And sometimes not being in an unhealthy relationship is the best thing that you could do for yourself.
better alone than in bad company, right?
Exactly.
So that's really a great message. But let's go to, I know you're working a lot with people going through divorce.
Sure.
Are you
Yes.
working more with the female side of things? Tell us about that.
I think I'm going to generalize, but I think that females tend to seek help quicker than men.
Okay.
So as a result, I think I see more females, but I think men are experiencing very similar emotions and feelings that women do. I run co-parenting classes in Fort Lauderdale through FACES, which is an awesome program.
Okay.
And that is for either people that have been married or not married but have children together and need to learn effective skills in order to communicate better for the sake of their children.
I think that's important for any couple.
For
Just
sure.
having, had a baby soon after getting married, still getting to know my husband, that probably would have been
Helpful. I
Helpful.
know. Everyone says that. They're like, well, why did we have to get separated or divorced to come to these classes?
Right.
As opposed to, oh, you're going to have a baby? You should start with these classes
Right.
immediately. So you can learn how to communicate and be on the same page. So many people in relationships aren't on the same page. And when you're not on the same page, one person starts to do this, one person starts to do that, and then you start to drift.
right.
And another thing about divorce is so many people don't talk about it. There's
Right.
such a taboo still about, oh, we're separated or we're getting divorced.
Are you seeing that your divorced clientele are younger and younger?
For sure.
Really?
I think that in the past you would hear people, middle-aged getting divorced, and now it's
Yeah.
as young as even in their 20s.
Oh, around the time when I got married and a lot of my friends started to get married, it wasn't long before people were uncoupling. And it just was amazing to me because, think of our parents' generation, everybody's, for the most part, still together, unless you're my
Or they
parents
got divorced later on in life.
Right.
They stayed
Right.
together for the kids, and I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing either. But I think just in general, people are quicker to get married in some ways, and as a result, quicker to have children, and yet not really being on the same page, not really ever having marital counseling, and then conflict just intensifies. That's what I've been seeing. Conflict was there, and then they have a child, let's say, or two,
Right.
and the conflict just increases.
So at what stage in the divorce are you, starting to work with the people going through it?
Sadly, I think people aren't coming to therapy until they're really at the end and really are kind of fed up. And I wish people would come in earlier in the process, where they're starting to, have little fights or, the beginning of kind of tension, as opposed to, okay, I'm done. I can't stand it. We're going to court, and court's making us come to counseling. I mean, that's great. I'm glad that you're coming to counseling, but I think it should happen way
Of course, more proactive than reactive. What would you say? I mean, if you
I
took,
wish more people made it a priority.
right. Right. I understand because that in itself is a form of self-care. And I know how important self-care is to you. And I definitely want to talk more about that because maybe you can school me a little bit.
Yes, you need it.
Somebody needs to literally put me in a timeout chair.
I just don't understand how you do it all.
I don't do it all. Do you want to talk about how I don't do it all? You guys, I'm just going to give you a little example, okay? This is my diaper bag. I had a very important meeting this morning, and when my business card was asked for, you know what I pulled out of my purse, everybody? A diaper. My daughter's diaper, because I do a lot, but today I forgot to change my purse. So something always, I think that's an important point to bring up after the break, that when you try to do it all, something is always going to suffer. Today it was only my purse, not that big a deal, but I've had days where worse has happened. So we're about to go to break. Dr. G, can we call you that?
I guess so.
I like that.
Okay.
Goldfinger. I love everything gold and shiny, and that is you, my dear. Tell us where we can find you.
You can find me online at Psychology Today. That's probably the best way to find me because then you can reach me directly and, based on where you're located, whether you're in Dade or Broward, we can find the best fit.
PsychologyToday.com. Dr. Nicole Goldfinger. Join us after the break. We have a lot more to come. Thanks for being here. Thank you for listening to Babes in Business. And let me tell you, if you're looking for a lawyer, I've got the guy. The show is brought to you by the Dempsey Law Firm, PA, a civil litigation boutique specializing in personal injury and wills, trust, and estate planning. The firm founder and attorney, Elliot Dempsey, serves clients across South Florida for issues ranging from auto accidents and slip and falls to your basic will or trust to protect your loved ones. We've all got loved ones, so he's the right guy to call for it. The Dempsey Law Firm can be found online at www.thedempseylaw.com or call him by phone at 954-667-8120. Tell him Michelle sent you. And don't forget, change is the law of life. Thank you for listening to Babes in Business. I am your number one babe in business, your host, Michelle Dempsey of Very Well Written, the business I founded to help other entrepreneurs get their businesses off the ground with great content, strategy, branding, social media, editing, and anything in the way of words. I've got you covered, www.michelledempsey.com, or you can call me at 305-469-7500. Don't forget to tune in every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock to join me and a fellow babe in business talk all things business. Can't wait to see you there. Are you feeling empowered to be a babe in business? Just when you thought you had all the secrets, I'm getting ready to share some more. We'll see you there on Babes in Business. All yours. It was put there for you, nobody but you. Welcome back to Babes in Business, the Valentine's Day edition. We are spreading love all day. It's the Brooklyn way. I've got Dr. Nicole Goldfinger on with me. She's phenomenal, and she is helping people through transition times that are really rough, whether it's divorce, whether it's a co-parenting situation, whether loss of job, grieving. What else?
I'm like a jack of all trades.
You are a jack of all trades, helping people to overcome really challenging situations. And
I'd like to think so.
I think a lot of us, when we're going through something that is so challenging or scary or unknown, feel alone. So the fact that you're giving people that option to not feel alone and to have a neutral party to sort of talk them down from the proverbial ledge.
And there's so much shame that goes along with it. And I think recognizing the importance of venting to a neutral party, like you just said, is so helpful.
Right.
You know, a therapist is not your mom. It's not your sister. It's not your best friend, your husband. It's a neutral person that you have this safe connection hour with a week. And I think it's so valuable.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about, because this is phenomenal and I feel your passion for all of this. What led you into psychology versus anything else? At what point in your life did you know that this is what you wanted to do?
I think that for me, I've always been a people person. I'm super outgoing and super interested in making connections with people. So when I went to school, I was just like, of course, I want to study psychology because I'm fascinated by people and I want to learn more about like the brain and how it operates and what makes people who they are. So I went to college with knowing that I was going to do psychology, and then afterwards I decided to go to grad school and get my PsyD at Nova. And
where'd you go to undergrad?
I went to George Washington in D.C.
We were neighbors.
Where'd you go?
I was at American.
You were?
Yes.
That's so funny.
So funny.
So then after college, I wanted to move back because I was cold.
Yes.
And I wanted to be near my family, and I moved back and went to Nova. And then actually for my residency year, went to Ohio. Very interesting year, very interesting place.
In what sense?
In every sense. Being from South Florida, I was never really exposed to people being so genuinely nice and open and warm.
Oh, so it was surprising in a good way.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Cold, but cold and weather-wise, but
Right.
just open and warm. And it was such a great learning experience for me, to be there for a year and be out of my comfort zone, completely out of my comfort zone. And then
That's where the magic happens, though. I was speaking to a group of wonderful girls who I promised I would shout out today from Boyd Anderson High School, Women of Tomorrow. Change is where the magic happens. Stepping out of your comfort zone and doing the thing you're most uncomfortable with is where you're going to grow.
And all my friends are like, you are not going to be able to handle Ohio. You can't be away from your family and your friends and comfort. And it was the best year. I learned so much about myself, about my career.
What part of Ohio were you in?
In Cleveland.
Nice.
Yeah, it was so cold.
So, okay, so you were cold. You came back to Florida.
No, then I went to Boston.
Oh, my God, more cold.
More cold, very cold. And I worked in Boston for 4 years at a treatment center specializing in eating disorders. And then I decided, okay, I'm done with the cold. I'm moving back to Florida. So I moved back here about 3.5 years ago.
Eating disorders.
Yes.
Another thing I actually spoke about today, I spent much of my life battling dysmorphia, which is crippling in its own right. And people kind of don't always think of that as an eating disorder because it's not directly related to eating. But I can only imagine, if had I sought the right help at that time, how much pain and suffering it would have saved me. And I share that very openly. I speak about it openly because not having a good perception of yourself will affect everything else you do in your life. At what age are you starting to see? I'm going to assume again you're seeing more females.
For sure, but it definitely affects men as well as women, boys as well as girls. Younger and younger. Same thing with the anxiety and depression. It often goes hand in hand with eating disorders. Girls as young as 8 struggle with eating disorders. And as a mom, being a healthy role model, having kids, both moms and dads, having a healthy relationship with food is the best lesson you can teach your children.
How do you do that? I'm a mom. I would, when I found out I was having a girl, it scared me to death because I said I never want her to feel or go through what I went through. So how do you prevent that?
I think just being aware.
You can talk more into your mic and scream
sorry.
at us. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. I think just being aware of the language that you use, because it's so easy to kind of be in your routine and be like, ugh, I don't feel good, or I feel fat, or I can't eat that. And
we are very mindful, actually, in my house. My husband, thank you, baby, does a really good job of being like, we don't talk like that around here.
Exactly. So I think just being conscious and mindful and aware is the first step.
Yes.
And being a good role model for your daughter or son in that, mommy's going to have ice cream and daddy's going to have pasta, and that's okay. Not having any bad foods, not labeling foods as bad.
Got it. I'm like taking notes here.
And it's hard, because it's the diet culture is all around us.
That having a serious past with that, the fact that I was in education and I saw from the other side of how children were treating each other and bullying, I think it's so important that, parents know that there is somebody, if you're noticing behaviors in your child that are concerning or that they're making comments about how they look at a very young age, Dr. G is somebody you might want to call because the earlier you nip this in the bud.
For sure.
Okay. So you're like phenomenal to me. You're covering, this doctor covers all of these things that I find to be, to be able to handle. You're handling real deal stuff every day. People who are suffering and in pain, going through divorce is, I'm sure, a horribly traumatic thing for people. On top of the fact that you're dealing with people who are going through losing spouses and loved ones, suffering from an eating disorder. How do you unplug? How do you, what do you do on your drive home? Do you scream at the top of your lungs?
I think being in private practice, though, has been so wonderful for me personally because there's balance. You can make your own schedule.
Yeah.
You can kind of, cater your clients to what you specialize in versus just seeing anybody. But what I do to relax, I spin a lot. I work out.
You spin a lot. You do spin a lot. I know that
Cycle
about
Ward
you.
is amazing in Fort Lauderdale.
Cycle ward?
Yes.
It's kind of funny that the psychologist is at
I know.
Just saying.
I know. I do that, and I just, I read a lot at night, non-psychology books.
Okay.
Just as a way to just decompress.
Okay.
And I go to bed early. I know that ages me,
Sleep
but
helps. No, listen, we're in our 30s. We don't recoup like we used to.
mid-30s. Yes, over here.
Really?
Yeah.
You look great.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel you, and I really.
That's part of the self-care.
Okay, so talk to
Right.
me. What is your take on self-care, primarily for women? Because a lot of the people who watch the show, and obviously every guest we have on, is a female entrepreneur.
Sure.
Who, if you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of working yourself to death a little bit because you have to.
Right.
You don't go into business for yourself to just get by.
And you're not successful unless you're a go-getter and you're hustling all the time.
So that's what I do, and that's what makes me feel whole.
You do that to excess,
Really?
Right.
Do I?
But that's great, and that makes you you. I just want you to have...
Why do you think, doctor, why do I do that?
Because you just want to do it all. You want to
Yeah.
feel satisfied. You give 120%. That's your personality.
That is me.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Like 2,000%.
yeah. I was being kind.
You'd be very proud of me. I've learned the sexiest word in the English language and possibly many other languages is no. I say no a
Oh.
lot now. And it's the most, speak about empowerment.
I love
It's the
it.
most empowering thing. And that to me is a form of self-care because if I'm pushed to say no, it's because it's really impeding on my ability to be productive or enjoy or relax. So I say no.
think the important message is practice what you preach.
Yes.
Whatever you share with other people,
You mean like practice what you post?
Yes,
Yeah.
practice what you... I meant practice what you post. Social media. It's important.
It's killing us, social media.
Killing us. That's
So-
why everyone needs therapy.
Everyone needs therapy.
Right, because everyone's on social
and
media
everyone
thinking
has
they need to be
FOMO.
on vacation
Right.
or in Bora Bora.
Or everybody has the best relationship. Like everybody's
blessed.
relationship,
Blessed.
#, love.
Love my
It's
life.
ridiculous.
Yeah, it's excessive.
Okay, so I'm
It's
happy.
like I'm happy you're blessed, but you don't need to be posting about it every minute.
Thank you. I wrote an article about this last year. And I just feel, I'm a little too transparent. I know my mom will be like, why are you writing about these things? Not everyone needs to know your life. But I just feel like there's such a lack of authenticity these days. And it frustrates me to no end that I find myself like overcompensating for the people who are so like, my life is perfect. I want to be like, no, let's keep it real.
It's those people that say my life is perfect that I would question, like, why are you even saying that?
We're not hating.
Yeah.
It's just, her business is really built on people who are affected by what they see on social media. Lucky for you, Facebook exists because you're in business, right?
Yes.
But
And it can be a wonderful thing, and you want to share all the joys in your life, and that's wonderful. But I think it's when people become obsessed with anything, including social media, that's a problem.
it's a problem. Yeah. I love that you're pointing this out because
Yeah.
I'm a little obsessed.
I mean, so am I.
Okay. I mean, it's, I get it. So I want to know from your perspective, from like an actual expert's perspective, those of us who are raising families or not, or, engaged in any relationship and also trying to build a business and working nonstop and maybe networking all the time and doing lots of stuff. What would you recommend as like the recommended time to just unplug and dedicate to yourself?
Well, I think unplugging is also unplugging your phone. I think
Started doing that at
a
night.
lot of people describe me as, oh, Nicole's always attached to her phone. And I am, but I also sometimes have it go completely dead and don't charge it for a little while. And I disconnect that way.
It's such a liberating thing, right?
Right? You're like totally disconnected. You can read or you can watch your show and you don't have to be checking, whatever you're checking constantly. But I think at night when you're home and like spending time with your family and actually spending time with whoever, your family, it could be your dog, it could be your child, it could be your husband, it could be whatever you're doing, just being in the moment. Because so many people are constantly on the go, including us, that we forget to just chill out.
I love that. It's very true. And I'm guilty of that 100 times a day. And it was pointed out to me recently. And I'm like, you know what? I've made it a point now. I shut down. Like, I won't check emails. I don't take any business calls. Like, if my daughter is in my presence, nothing else is. And that's something that, it's hard because
And you're setting such a good example, Michelle, to your daughter.
Oh, well, thank you.
Oh, you're
I
welcome.
try.
No, it's
we're
true.
all trying to be the best at everything, and I think if you're going to be balancing, there's a kind of a myth about balance. Like nothing's ever going to be equal. Like my mom skills are not as good as my work skills on certain day, and vice versa. And I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. But anyway, the point is, you're brilliant.
I want to come here every week.
I actually want to do a part 2 because
Part 2.
we are running out of time, but there's so many things I still want to talk to you about. I find you to be fascinating. And if I didn't know you as a friend, I might consider coming to you for therapy, but we'd probably just laugh the whole time.
For sure.
Dr. Nicole Goldfinger with South Miami Psychology Group in Coral Gables if you're down in Miami, or you can visit her in private practice in Fort Lauderdale. She's also a co-parenting master if you are going through a time of transition or you really feel you and your spouse need a little help on the parenting end. Nicole is your girl. How can we get in touch with you?
Email through Psychology Today. My phone number's on Psychology Today. That would be the best way to communicate with me as soon as possible.
Okay, and if you ever need any help with your marketing, branding, you just need a little bit of idea generation, a little motivation to get your brand up and ready for the next level of success, I am your girl, Michelle Dempsey at michelledempsey.com. I would love, again, to shout out the Women of Tomorrow for having me today to do a self-love seminar on Valentine's Day. I want to spread all the love to everybody listening and remind you there's no greater love than you'll have with yourself. So take care of you. We'll see you next week with the writing guru, Wendy Weiner. Until then, keep it smart, keep it sassy, keep it successful, keep being a babe in business. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Like they say.